from the New Day. Give me that whole yeah. Give it to me. I need it.
Hello, and a very warm welcome back to the Gimme a Whole Yeah Wrestling Podcast. My name is Anne. I'm joined by my old friend as usual.
I mean, I assume you're talking about me. I mean, I don't know how long you've known Scott, but we've had some great chats while we've been sorting this out. So I feel like I feel like Scott's an old wrestling buddy now. But my name is Dom. Hi.
Excellent. And today we are joined by the awesome ScottJay01. He's got a wonderful YouTube channel. You should seriously check it out. He does a lot of work on the old video games and mods them and creates a definitive edition of them. Absolutely fantastic work. And his channel is really entertaining, even if you're not interested in that directly, just to go and watch him talk about it, because it is great. He's got some wonderful insight into wrestling history. And as a former wrestler himself, we also did an interview with him on our channel. All these are in the description, so go and check them out. Thank you for joining us, Scott.
No problem, guys. All right.
Let's do this. Review.
Cool.
Let's do this review.
All right, cool. Are you starting? Am I starting? Who's starting?
You're doing it, Dom.
What? Oh,
You're
man,
doing it.
You've just sprung this on me right now.
Welcome.
The show rundown from start.
Fine.
to finish.
Okay, let's do that. All right, fine. Let's do the draft. So we started off Smackdown with the draft. Stephanie McMahon came out, so not on a video call, actually in person, which is a big deal because we normally just see her digitally. Nothing massive in the draft in the first thing. You know, it was confusing. Drew McIntyre stays on Raw. Wow, massive. Okay, good. Roman Reigns stays on SmackDown. Wow, huge. Okay, fine. Asuka stays on Raw. Whoa! Seth Rollins moves to SmackDown. Okay, good, cool, fine, excellent. Right? The Hurt Business stays on Raw.
I mean, underwhelming, man. And what an underwhelming way to do the draft.
We got more. We're gonna do that. We've got the whole. Do you want me to run through the whole draft and then go on to the matches, or you want me to?
Sure, we'll do the draft. And
all right, let's just get this done. Right. Okay. All right. This is a fairly big one. AJ Styles to Raw.
Sure.
Getting away from Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Unable to see his son's football games on the Fridays.
Bang.
Yeah.
Works for everyone.
All right. Okay. All right. Sasha Banks stays on SmackDown. Big whoop. We knew that was going to happen. Okay. You ready for a really exciting one, guys?
Go on.
Naomi moves to Raw.
Naomi? Since when was she relevant?
Well, I meant since the hashtag push Naomi or give Naomi a chance. That's been a thing.
And what chance has she had since then?
But if they do something with Naomi, on
fingers
Raw,
crossed. Absolutely fingers crossed. But my issue is, like, the SmackDown should sort of give you a power rankings almost of importance of superstars. It should be you draft the first two people, Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns. They're your biggest superstars. They're your champions.
But why do you draft them? Because they're your champions. That
Exactly.
you are the Raw champion and the SmackDown champion. Shouldn't you be exempt?
Absolutely. Yeah, there
You
should
know,
be.
the Raw champion is obviously going to stay on Raw, right? It'd be silly for the Raw champion to be on SmackDown. He's the champion of the Raw brand.
Absolutely.
So, like, why are we doing this? Like, this is the question. I was watching the show with you guys, and every time we got to a draft segment, the bottom line was, why are we doing
there's
this
more.
way? Yeah.
There's more, guys. There's more big picks. Okay, ready? Right, we'll run through these. Bianca Belair moves to SmackDown.
I thought she was on main event. I didn't realise she was on Raw or SmackDown.
Well,
not that she should be, but she hasn't been on bloody Raw.
I think here's my argument for the draft is that it could be used to really build up characters like Bianca Belair. I think it could be a big deal for Bianca Belair.
Could be. It should be, but that relies trust in WWE at the minute.
Indeed. Right, Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler stay on Raw.
They're tag team champions that can go anywhere.
Right, okay. Another one that could be brought up as early because they're trying to do something with him now. Ricochet stays on Raw.
I just don't understand why they're doing this. You know, like they're like.
All right. What what I'll do is I'll run through the rest of them, and you can pick out the big ones. And I think there's one obvious one here that we will talk about. Okay.
Dana Brooke, yeah.
Yeah, Dana Brooke. So Jey Uso stays on SmackDown. Mandy Rose stays on Raw. Dominic and Rey Mysterio move to SmackDown. The Miz and John Morrison move to Raw.
Okay.
Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods move to Raw. Big E stays on SmackDown. Dana Brooke stays on Raw. Otis stays on SmackDown, and Angel Garza stays on Raw. So for me, the big money news out of all of these is Seth Rollins to SmackDown and Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods go to Raw while Big E stays on SmackDown.
Well, that's the only big news, really. But it makes sense from a storyline present. They haven't split up the New Day in terms of they've turned into a faction against each other. They've just sent Big E to there for now, and New Day can still support him, and Big E can still support the New Day, you know? And that makes complete sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think the New Day is probably the most prevalent change, because that's the thing that's going to shake things up the most, because now we've moved Seth to SmackDown, but you've also moved Dominic and Rey to SmackDown, so that program essentially just continues on a different channel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just think that did we just do this show and call it a draft just to pop a number? Because there is clearly, and you know, and I've only just started watching wrestling properly again, you know, recently. So I don't know if the draft has been like this for a couple of years.
It has, yeah.
If it has, they needed to stop it the first time they did this.
The first time it didn't work, yeah.
You know, why draft people that are already on your brand? It doesn't. It's just a waste of time.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean a thing. It cheapens the whole thing, because it doesn't garner any reaction. It doesn't make anyone go wow or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were serious about this, you could have spread out the picks that actually did change tonight. So like Seth, Ray and Dominic, Miz and Morrison, the New Day, Naomi, Bianca Belair. And was there any more that switched, or was it just
and the New Day, obviously? But you're right. You just do them, and you met the bigger deal
out.
of them.
Yeah, and then they're all big deals, because you're like, okay, Naomi wasn't being used on SmackDown. There's a big women's program between Bayley and Sasha going on right now, so maybe Naomi gets some time on Raw. Bianca Belair, maybe she's next in line for whatever happens with the Sasha Bayley thing. You know, tag teams moving over to Raw because the Street Profits, you know, they need new people to wrestle.
Absolutely, yeah. And
then obviously the single stars, you open up new things for Dominic to do, new things for Seth to do, while tying up loose ends with their programs, right?
Mm-hmm.
That all makes sense and is nice. What was the point of? Did any of us need to know the Hurt Business, Ricochet, and whoever else all are staying on their respective shows, especially being like, well, the Raw champion is staying on Raw and the SmackDown champion is staying on SmackDown. Okay.
Absolutely agree. I think one of the important analysis is coming out of this is that the tag teams seem to be all going to Raw as well, which I think is a very positive move on WWE's part. Keep the tag division on Raw, get rid of it on SmackDown, and we can actually sort of have some different contenders for matches.
Absolutely. So
the other
you guys
thing to point out from the draft, guys, was Stephanie McMahon's shoulder pads. They were square, dude. I mean, I was into them.
They were okay. They were pretty cool.
So we all agreed on a unified tag division is much better. So we get undisputed tag titles, yeah?
Yes.
Should do, definitely.
As a good point to focus on, that is, I would be I'm much more of a fan of that personally as well.
Yeah.
And does that mean we're getting Street Profits versus New Day at Hell in a Cell to unify the tag belts?
I hope so.
Or they wait till Survivor Series.
Okay. That makes sense.
The Survivor is the undisputed tag team champions.
Good idea, Scott. Good idea, Scott.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Right, go on then, Anthony. What happened next?
I don't have the review in front of me. You do. So read the review and stop trying to put it on me. Nice try, kid. You're doing the review. Enjoy.
Oh my god. Hello, Jalen Gray. Welcome to the stream. Crazy Ginger Jake Holden. Hakeem, AW Star, thank you for coming back and seeing us. So we had Big E and Sheamus in the Falls Count Anywhere match. I thought this was pretty great all in all. Some good sort of physical, sort of classic Extreme Rules type, action going on. We got some egg and flour on Big E in an interesting moment. We got lots of welts on Sheamus's back. Lots of attacks with the kendo stick. Some really entertaining stuff. Biggie breaks a couple of brooms over Sheamus's back, and again, people, you could really see Sheamus was not only selling this stuff physically, but you could also see the evidence of that on his body. They fight into a garage. And then Sheamus finds this kind of like tire iron, uses it as a weapon. He picks up Big E and delivers the white noise. Of course, that was how he took Big E out weeks ago. But Big E kicks out. So again, to me, this looks like they're really, really pushing Big E as a really solid face, being able to kick out moves like this, and obviously having this push with the match. So Big E takes Big E onto the trunk of the car, goes to slam his arm, which could have been a really, really painful thing to watch in the car boot. Goes for that, but then Big E kicks his leg up and stops it. Manages to kick Sheamus a few times, distracting him, picks Sheamus up, powerbombs him onto the hood of the car, and then gets a big ending through the table, which is probably my spot of the night, probably my big spot of the night, to beat Sheamus in what I would call, one of my favourite matches, if not my favourite match of the night. All in all, a cracking showing from both guys. Scott, Anthony, your thoughts?
Go on, Ant.
Short match, but wonderful. Like, cracking. What an opening to the show. What a positive way to open the show. And the perfect person went over. I assume that Sheamus is going to stay on Smackdown? No, Raw. This feels like the end of it. And actually, in a show that was built up on sort of big matches and big moments, and the rest of which sort of disappointed in a sense, this really delivered, and delivered in a great way for what was a short 10-minute match, but actually really sort of had some great action in it. Scott?
I was talking before we got cut off about, people who were inexperienced and, things like that, and not knowing when to do things and when not to. And these two are just the exact opposite of that. Super pros, fantastic match, pay-per-view quality match, to be honest. Real pay-per-view quality match. Opened the show strong, really beat the hell out of each other. I mean, they were, Sheamus was bleeding welts all over him. Both guys going to be real banged up. Great use of the cars, actually, like kicking the boot off with the brogue kick.
Nice.
Things like that. Really,
that was
really
nice.
Good. Solid match. Probably the best match of the actual best wrestling match of the night, really.
I think pretty easily, actually. Yeah, probably. Yeah. Cool. What happened next, Domo?
Domo, you've never called me that, and never ever call me that again.
Making it up at 4 a.m. on Saturday, October the 10th.
Yeah, there you go. Right after the commercial break, so Kofi and Xavier Woods. I guess I've already spoiled it for people that are watching this back. But Kofi and Xavier Woods surprise Big E backstage in a nice moment that pops. That would pop the crowd had they been there, but I'm sure popped the screens in the Thunderdome. Reigns comes on backstage with Paul Heyman in an office. You said you quite like this sort of gimmick change for Reigns, Anthony, sort of more corporate Reigns, I suppose. And he announces that he wants to have an I Quit match in a cell, a Quit in a Cell match, a Hell in a Quit match, an I in the Cell Quit.
Look, the I Quit. First of all, I like the gimmick. I like him being at the top of the office. It makes him feel like a tribal chief without going down the stereotypical racist route that WWE would normally go with something like that. So I like that. However, the I Quit in a Hell in a Cell, just have an I Quit match. And it's not an I Quit match, it's an I'm the Tribal Chief match. Similar to how Velveteen Dream and Aleister Black had a match in NXT where it was all about say my name. It's a wonderful gimmick. It works perfectly for the I Quit gimmick. Why is it in a cell? It doesn't need to be. But apart from that, it was cracking.
Scott?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the Reigns promo goes, great stuff. Fantastic again. sort of showing right now. If you didn't think this guy was a top star the second you saw him when the Shield debuted, and you stopped being into him as the Shield, broke up, this proves that this guy was the right guy to go with. They just completely train wrecked him booking wise.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This, star, literal star. Looking at him, complete star. Love the promo, and yeah, I think I was a bit weirded out by the match when they first announced it, but now when I put it in better terms of in my own brain of it's a Hell in a Cell with no pinfalls. You just have to submit.
Mm-hmm.
And if they take it one step further, where Reigns holds his face and he goes, "I don't want you to say I quit. I want you to admit that I am the tribal chief."
Yeah.
After beating him all over the cell, I would be all in for this. Cool. It would be great. Yeah. So really great and awesome to see the New Day again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So, if we're going to move on, so after the break, we see we see Jeff Hardy coming out to face Miz and Morrison, who have come out as well. Interestingly enough, there's a graphic that's shown up of Twitter exchanges between Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy, who Matt Riddle was saying that he would love to go to. He would love to team with Jeff Hardy. He would love for that to happen and for the draft to be the catalyst for that to happen. And then John Morrison and the Miz reply saying, we'd win, we'd beat you all over the place, which actually sets up this tag team match between Matt and Jeff. Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy against the Miz and Morrison in what is a relatively short match with pretty dominating fashion from Matt Riddle, lots of suplexes from Riddle to really take down the Miz particularly, which is interesting because obviously the Miz is great at selling and Matt Riddle really does look like a big star, rightly or wrongly at the moment. Match was surprisingly short, as you noted, Anthony. And Scott in the stream.
A bit pointless, really. But there wasn't any point to it.
Well, not really, because it turned out there was a big reason for that to be short. So Matt Riddle manages to grab the Miz and hit the Bro Derek for the win. But as they're celebrating, we see a return, of course. Now, now that's Lars Sullivan, who again, is a controversial figure in a time of very controversial figures in wrestling. He takes out both men with relative ease, Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy, but then also goes after Miz and Morrison in dominating fashion. So it didn't really allow for the teams to get going. Didn't really allow for a showcase of a potential team between Matt and Jeff, which I'm sure many people do want to see, but it did showcase Lars Sullivan as a dominant heel, rightly or wrongly, in these times. What did you guys think?
A bit of a pointless match, really. Went too short, not a lot to it. You couldn't really get into it because it was too short. The Lars Sullivan reveal at the end is cool. Again, he's coming out dominating. I hope it's a little more than his first run, where it was just him killing the Lucha House Party again and again. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what they do with Lars Sullivan. Scott?
Miz and Morrison is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even when you're watching somebody else, we were watching the Matt Riddle exchange with him and Morrison and then him and Miz. Mm-hmm. And I think it's easy to forget how good Miz and Morrison are watching that, because it's them doing that, essentially. They're making that moment. And I hope when they go to Raw, they do some. I would actually like them to take the titles off the Street Profits. Maybe have New Day versus Miz and Morrison a bit later for both sets, like that.
There's so much more potential with all the tag teams on Raw. So many more stories to tell. So yeah, good.
Yeah, way more. Lars, I don't know. I wasn't. Forget any personal things with Lars. I was never that keen on Sullivan to begin with. So I don't know. And Riddle, again, he's a really good athlete. He's really, really good athlete. But yeah, I think I'm more interested to see what happens with Miz and Morrison. And again, just I feel like them showing off how good they are when they're not really doing much, which is very much talent.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. No, I really appreciate your points on Miz and Morrison because I think they go underrated quite a lot, Scott. Particularly Morrison to my mind, but that's because I'm a huge fan of his work outside of WWE. Are we ready to move on, guys?
Absolutely.
Cool beans. So when we get back, obviously there's more draft stuff, which I did allude to when we first started off. Ricochet, Mysterios, blah blah blah. But the real meat of this section of SmackDown is, of course, the Bayley and Sasha Banks match for the championship. Now, this is we've talked a lot about how this should have main evented pay-per-views. This should be a WrestleMania thing, a SummerSlam thing, a Hell in the Cell thing, whatever. But no, it's on SmackDown. Straight from the off, you've got Sasha Banks going great guns at Bayley, attacking her in the corner. Really, you're getting that aggression, lots of kicks, lots of punches, not really very great technical showing, but you get the Banks statement pretty early in, so you think this is going to be a foregone conclusion. Bayley manages to counter. They trade falls. Bayley manages to reverse and go for a roll-up. Sasha does the same thing. But then eventually, because again, another very short match in terms of SmackDown, Bayley ends up grabbing the chair that she brings to the ring with her and attacking Sasha with that for the disqualification. So Bayley kind of, we get this unsatisfying finish here. And we sort of think that's going to be it because, again, it does feel very rushed. A lot of the times in this SmackDown, it does feel very rushed. But no, we get Sasha Banks fights back. She goes to break Bayley's neck. It puts her head in between the chair and goes for the stomp off the second rope. But Bayley manages to roll away. Of course, we all predicted this between us, that there was going to be a continuation of this feud and that would run into Hell in a Cell. And that is what happened. So, guys, your thoughts on this?
So the issue is that, like Scott said in the stream, it should have been either two things. It should have been a 20-minute match with a dodgy finish and we got a real sort of tease of what was to come. Or it should have been instant disqualification. Actually, I think the other option is it shouldn't have been on TV. You wouldn't have put Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton on TV in their first thing of this feud. You wouldn't have put Roman Reigns and Jey Uso on TV before Clash of Champions. It ruins some of the build for that. And I actually think it was a detriment to both performers to even put them in this position on the show. They could have done something else with them, or they could have had another segment with someone else. It felt like a bit of a rush show anyway, like trying to cram a hell of a lot into it. And for me, this was pretty poor.
Yep.
Fantastic work for what they did to build up the excitement, but then we was left with nothing, and it's like,
Yeah, it wasn't ideal, I think, for the longevity of the feud. Like I say, it's a main event thing. Scott, your thoughts?
I think after months of fantastic television being the highlights of WWE, I think, unfortunately, I worry this is history repeating itself now. I feel they have done both girls have done a fantastic job of building and building and building this thing. And then not only the placement, like we already spoke about the placement and how the finish a screwy finish is fine, but I worry this is them doing what they normally do, which is we are going to book a long babyface feud where we have Sasha have multiple matches and she loses them and then finally gets it. And by the time she does, everyone isn't interested. And I really worry about that because I'm like, you need to separate the two of them. I don't know if we should even be having this second match if you are, in fact, going to drag this out to WrestleMania. If you're not dragging out to WrestleMania, I kind of think you've just blown something that could have been dragged to WrestleMania.
Sad, isn't it? Yeah.
And done really well. I feel so sorry for both these two because, like, the second they both were called up from NXT, both have been mishandled several times and have had to have quite varying character changes because of it. And their initial characters were fine as they were initially. And then the only reason that change happened is because it was messed around with in the first place. And I just thought, okay, they've both got to a point where heel Bayley is great. Heel Sasha / face Sasha is great. You know, they're great together. It's just, this could have been handled so differently. Yeah, and just also, again, bizarre placement, especially with what happens at the end of the show as well. I just thought real bizarre placement. Fantastic work by both girls, though. Two of the best in the company by far, and out of everybody. Yeah.
Sad. Really sad.
Yeah.
Really disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously, it'll lead up to something for Hell in a Cell, which could be much better. We could get a more satisfying,
hopefully,
conclusion.
It should be the main event of Hell in a Cell, let alone halfway through SmackDown.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Ready to carry on, guys?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Sweet. Okay, cool. So we've got the Tag Team Championships on the line. Cesaro and Nakamura versus The New Day, who of course returned earlier in the night. The New Day being Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods in this instance. Obviously, Big E's on his singles run, so it makes sense to have The New Day in this form. I predicted, just because I'm particularly proud of that, I predicted that they would win.
He's showing off during the review. I like it.
A lot of people said they wouldn't win. A lot of people said, because obviously this was really a ratings pop SmackDown, that it was possible for New Day to win. So there's really interesting stuff going on here. Really good chemistry. Anytime Cesaro gets in the ring with a New Day, anytime, to be honest, Cesaro and Nakamura have great chemistry together, and that was always going to work with the New Day. Cesaro's got lots and lots of experience of working with the New Day in various forms. And I think it really adds to their chemistry. Some really cool DDTs in here, like Xavier Woods hits one, then Kofi hits one to the outside. And that was probably my highlight of the match. But really good back and forth. The New Day looked, vigorous and really, really enthusiastic to be back in the ring. Particularly Xavier Woods, who always brings the fire. For me personally, I think he's just, people talk about Big E, and people, obviously, we've already seen Kofi Kingston go to the top, but it's only a matter of time till Xavier Woods gets his shot, because he's just such a personality. The end of the match comes when Kofi hits the Trouble in Paradise, and Woods manages to follow up with that really cool looking springboard elbow from the top, from the rope. Brilliant stuff. And New Day recapture the titles. But of course, the big news here is Stephanie McMahon, who's already out. She's preparing to sort the draft out, and she's saying that New Day are going to go over to Raw, and then that's going to leave Big E, the former Big E Langston, to be left on SmackDown for his singles push, which was a big bit of news. And then weirdly enough, we go straight into Dana Brooke going to Raw, and that's kind of. And then the New Day are just kind of left in the ring looking dejected while Stephanie runs through the rest of the draft picks.
But not as dejected as Dana Brooke looks backstage.
No, probably not as dejected as Dana Brooke. Like I say, good call. I think moving the New Day, good call putting Big E in a really, really really prominent position, because I think he will be in a very prominent position on SmackDown going forward. You guys, what did you think of the tag team title win for the New Day?
Rubbish.
Right?
I mean, look, it was sorry to be negative and stuff, but it's just that they're not seeing what they've got, right? They've got the New Day lost the titles to Shinsuke and Cesaro. They've been having some really good matches with Lucha House Party. It's some impressively good matches, actually, that have got me more invested in Lucha House Party. And instead of telling a story, they have them come back and win the titles in a few minutes match. And I get that they're going to SmackDown, and maybe Cesaro and Shinsuke are going to go back singles and stay on SmackDown and stuff like that. But there's a story there that was just not told, and bringing them back just to do that felt lazy to me. And the match, it wasn't given enough time to really get invested in it. It was over within sort of a few minutes, and it's a big title change, or it should be. There's a story there that they completely sort of glossed over. And actually, after they won the titles, the talking point isn't the New Day have the titles back at all. The talking point is the New Day split up. So you've actually just even even to the point of them winning the titles, you've then just you've gone down on it, like made that even feel even less important by having them break them up, which is the big news, you know. So really disappointed that this didn't happen over a longer period of time, for me personally.
Okay, Scott.
I actually think I disagree. I think it was a really tight match, and I like that. I like it was a very tight match, and I think a good positive match after what we had previously, finishing with. Super happy for Xavier Woods getting the actual win. You know, he got the 1, 2, 3. You know, one of the nicest guys ever. And I think yes, Cesaro and Shinsuke versus Lucha House Party and whoever else on SmackDown is while that is fresh. I think there is so much possibility and intrigue and interest, especially if they did do what they do with Miz and Morrison and Kofi and Xavier on Raw, as with the potential undisputed tag team championship on the line, and making us, this could be the start of the story of New Day having, becoming the undisputed tag team championships, but all champions, but also the fact that, Miz and Morrison, once upon a time, both held the Raw and SmackDown tag titles, right? They could go back there and they can have, they can really tell a good tag story when the tag titles need some real fire behind them. So I think that's real good. I like that the New Day was separated without breaking up.
Clever.
I just wonder what they do with Big E, because as much as I think you can build a heel Roman, and I think he's doing great with it. I do think even if they do what we spoke about earlier in the night, where Big E, wins the Rumble, faces Roman, and Roman beats him, and then Otis cashes in and he beats him too. I don't know if people boo Roman. I feel like a lot of people will think, yeah, he's such a badass.
Right.
And I know it's not the plan now, but I mean, that is the end game. That's why you turn anybody heel.
Exactly.
So you come back a bigger babyface. So you make more money, right? That's the thing. That's what you do with your top star. You did it with, work with everybody. I mean, that's why the internet has wanted that to happen for so long. So, yeah, I think I would have probably liked to see Big E go to Raw too, just because I don't necessarily want him to be the one to take the loss. And I want him to get. I could see him beating Randy Orton or someone like that instead. And also, Randy Orton could do. He's been stealthily taking out other people. What if he took out the New Day and Big E had to get revenge or something? Yeah, you can do all these fun things.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. But
so
maybe...
I don't know. We'll wait and see with the New Day splitting up thing or separating. But very tag title match, real tight, good match.
I agree with you, Scott. Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so we're hitting the main event now. Bray Wyatt and Kevin Owens. I'm going to run down this pretty quickly. I always like to preface Bray Wyatt matches with I am a huge fan of Bray, so I probably
full disclosure.
To be objective, I like the pace of Fiend matches. I like the Fiend gimmick. I thought this did everything that it was supposed to do to put over the Fiend, but also extend the Kevin Owens feud involving Alexa Bliss and possibly Aleister Black. Kevin Owens got some decent offense in, even though the Fiend no-sold it, but it did look like Kevin was going to have a little bit more offense each time, and that may have given people hope that Kevin Owens could have won it, but he got some cannonballs in there. But then there was I think he got completely stopped in his tracks. The Fiend hit the Uranagi and then a Sister Abigail on the outside. But Kevin Owens managed to fight back. Like I say, there was a pop-up powerbomb moment as well. I can't remember exactly. It came pretty soon after this. There was lots of stuff outside in this. Kevin Owens managed to hit a pop-up powerbomb, but the Fiend kind of no-sold it again. Fiend gets back into the ring before a 10 count. Kevin Owens runs at him, hits him, and then the Fiend gets the mandible claw. I always pop for that move because I'm such a big Mick Foley fan as well. But then Owens manages to count into a stunner in a really nice moment because the stunner gets hit, but the Fiend characteristically no-sells it and carries on with the mandible claw and sort of lifts him up and puts him down again with the claw for the 3 count. The lights go off and then come back on again, and we see Alexa Bliss and the Fiend facing off to each other up the ramp. The Fiend and Alexa do this kind of the Undertaker sort of turn to look at Kevin Owens, who's choking, sort of coughing stuff up in the ring. Got to watch the COVID there, and then that's how we end. Well, it's not how we end. It's how we probably should have ended. But then we get this big plug for the next week where Braun Strowman, which I should have probably recapped, Braun Strowman and Roman Reigns are going to have a title match next week. But yeah, to be honest, for me, it was a decent Fiend match. Obviously, I know Anthony's going to criticize and say, you don't like Bray Wyatt matches, but it does everything it says on the tin. It is a classic Fiend match as we've come to know them. Kevin Owens didn't look weak at all, and I think there'll be a continuation of this feud, and I hope it does involve Alexa Bliss and Aleister Black. You guys, what do you think?
Anthony, go.
I thought it was a fine match. I thought it was okay. It was a decent main event to SmackDown. I wish they'd move a little bit. I wish they'd give us something else with The Fiend and Alexa. I sort of expected Home and Away music to start playing at the end and to walk off to Sunny Bay together. But yeah, I just need a little bit more. And actually, the stuff with Aleister Black, it's bizarre that it didn't happen. So this is just a clean win for the Fiend and Owens. So maybe they're moving on from it, and fair enough, because I don't think that this feud has been wonderful. However, again, the Firefly Funhouse stuff on Raw was really entertaining. One of the best Firefly Funhouses that we've had for a long time. So I guess it's over. I don't know. That's it. That's all I've got.
I mean, my question before Scott gives his verdict is to both of you is: do we see the Fiend now show up on Raw on Monday for any kind of continuation? But Scott, you can answer that question after you give your take.
Okay. The structural work, and by that I mean the wrestling in the match, was very good, very very solid. Good match, really good match. What was it for? Where did it go? What did it ended? I know I already said throughout our stream, this is very bizarre to have the title match with Sasha and Bayley with a lot of emotional weight behind it not be the last match. But even putting that aside, here's the thing. I watched that and I looked at it as great match, but I wasn't left wondering at the end when Bliss and Wyatt looked at each other and then looked at the ring and oh, what's going to happen next? I was looking at it so who is the star here and where are we going? And I think that's the problem is the Fiend is a great character and the Fiend can easily be a major star, just like Reigns has become, just like Banks and Bayley are, and just like Big E has, because as far as I'm concerned, those 4 performers tonight on tonight's episode all had star-making moments, right? And star-making performances, irrespective of the bad finish for the women's match. We know it's not down to them, but this was so bizarre. And then we get the announcement of the Universal title match. I think you could have done this match perfectly, exactly the same, finished the same, the look the same, and then we could have just had a tiny segment with Stephanie McMahon earlier in the show, just saying to Braun Strowman, "Oh, you're going to have a match later if you win, with somebody else. Winner gets a shot at Roman Reigns next week." And then that could have been our 2-minute match where Braun does his thing, where he slams everyone everywhere, wins, and then they announce the big title match next week. Even that is probably better than the actual ending that we got, because I kind of just looked like it ended instead of
Mm.
the show where the beginning was so white hot with that
Wonderful match.
street
Yeah.
fight. It was a really good match.
Yep.
You had anticipation for the title match. You had a feel good tag team title match. You had a stellar promo with Heyman and Reigns. And then obviously we already touched on Miz Morrison and Matt and Jeff. So yeah, I just think, like, where is this go? Like, what is the point of this feud?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Who is this benefiting? Because the Fiend doesn't get any more popular by beating Kevin Owens, because Kevin Owens is cold right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Does Kevin Owens get any hotter by beating the Fiend? I don't think so, because I don't think that this is the right thing to be doing with the Fiend, and I don't really understand the Alexa Bliss thing. Are they going to turn her into Sister Abigail? Is this going somewhere? I don't know. It just seems like a very all over the place thing when you have something special in the Fiend, and of course Kevin Owens too. But like, you could be doing so much better with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I feel like, unfortunately, that was the one dud in this show for me, anyway. And that's not to do with the match. I thought the actual structural work of the match was great.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Dom?
Like I say, man, I think just to summarize what I said before, I'm excited, but then I'm fantasy booking it already. But then I do that about stuff I love in wrestling, as I'm sure we've all done. I fantasy book the Fiend's next move because I'm a huge fan, so I'm already thinking about the possibilities between the Fiend and Bliss, and the possibilities between Fiend and Aleister Black, and the possibilities between Aleister Black and Kevin Owens and Alexa Bliss, and how that might fit together.
If we was doing Aleister Black, though, wouldn't they have done something tonight? Like, that's what I was expecting. Even if the Fiend won and everything, they went to the top of the ramp, and then we saw Aleister Black come and take advantage of Kevin Owens. Like, it felt like it needed something more. It needed something, and we didn't get anything. Yeah. And
I think it's happening on Raw.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
maybe so.
But then, do you think that was a bit anticlimactic to end the show with that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. So what are your Gimme a Whole Year stars out of 10? How many would you give this show, Dom?
2.5 for me.
Out of 10?
I'm sorry, out of 10.
I've changed it to out of 10 because all the commenters are just like doing it out of 10, so they don't understand 5, so I've just done it to 10.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so out of 10, 6.5.
Yeah, I think 6 is fair. Yeah. It was just a bit disjointed, that's all, the show.
Mm.
It was good. It was just a bit disjointed. Scott?
It's a tough one because, like, if you base it on just the work that was done, it's an 8 because it's like technically very good show. If people are going, "Oh, WWE doesn't have a wrestling show," there was plenty of good wrestling here, and long matches, short matches, everything done and very professionally done. But yeah, 7, I guess, just because all over the place in terms of how it was paced, and I just cannot deal with how they do this draft.
Man.
I'm sorry, just pick the people that are actually moving brands. Don't do anything else, because you're just pointing out that this is fake, and I hate that. And I absolutely hate that.
Agreed, dude. Agreed. Performer of the performer of the night, Dom?
Performer of the night. Big E, I think. I think every time I watch Big E now, I become a bigger fan. I suppose people would expect me to say The Fiend, but I would say definitely for me tonight, Big E was a standout for me.
Scott?
Well, match of the night was definitely Big E, Sheamus. They beat the hell out of each other. But again, I think just like it's been for the past 5 weeks now, I think Roman Reigns again, because the more I see of him now, the more I look at him and think, you're just not a top guy, you're the top guy, and you deserve to be the top guy, right? And not in the way that John Cena was, because I never thought John Cena was a top guy. I thought he was the top. He was the only guy at that level that they had.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think Reigns could be bigger than that in terms of, forget kid merchandise sales and things like that, but I think as a star, I think Reigns has more, especially now. So yeah, I think again, stellar work.
Rock and roll. Yeah, my performer of the night would be Big E. Not just for his match, but also the emotional side that he showed during the New Day breakup. I thought was really nicely done, and the fact that they really tried to. They didn't do any silly heel thing or anything like that. It was just we're breaking up, and I'm really sad about that, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It was a real heartwarming, heartfelt moment from Big E.
Yeah, I felt that.
And Scott's already done his match of the night, but we'll do our match of the night. Biggie and Sheamus.
Biggie and Sheamus.
There we go. I'm going to read through all of your comments. Thank you all so much for joining us. Please check out ScottJay's channel. Before I read through the start of the comments, the one I am going to read very quickly is Dude Look at Ali's Twitter, which is what Hakeem AEW star has said to us. I have checked Ali's Twitter, and he has written, "Hello, Kofi."
Really? Is that just now?
Yeah, that's genius. That is absolutely genius, because obviously Kofi Mania wouldn't have happened if Ali didn't get injured. Kofi took Ali's spot, and the idea that them two could be having a feud really excites me about that as well.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Really good. Like that.
There we go. Bianca is the great EST, says Hakeem. Yes, she is. She's great. It's just they haven't used her enough. And I see what you did there. Welcome back. Sorry about the stream problems. My computer completely died. Just went, I've had enough. I'm out of here. Sasha challenged Bayley to Hell in a Cell. That will be awesome, says Jaylene Gray. Yes, she did at the end of the show. A little too soon for me. I prefer Hell in a Cell at the end of the feud. But as long as they keep them away for a while after this, then yeah, cool. Do you guys think?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just glad they didn't do the stereotypical break, right?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'm upset New Day broke up. Yeah, man, really good show. Yes, it was. I'm glad they broke up. They needed to break up somehow. Okay, well, it's not a bad breakup. It's just a different breakup.
Can we call it a breakup though? It's just them on different shows.
Yeah,
they could just make something fresh out of that. They're still a team.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I'm sure they'll be around each other, especially in COVID times as well. Jake says, I didn't really like this show. Did not hate it, though. I would give it 7.5. Yeah. That's fair enough, man. That sounds... Yeah. I think that's how I feel. I've seen better Smackdowns recently. Yeah. Hated the Sasha stuff. Only things I liked was first match and Lars Sullivan. Everything else was average.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of agree with that. It felt quite averagey, sure.
Yeah, I think in comparison to past Smackdowns, recent Smackdowns, perhaps, yeah.
I think they've had...
Sorry, go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think they've had very, very strong Smackdowns in the last couple of weeks to compare to.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So...
Do you think that Lars Sullivan was done right? It doesn't feel like a big deal that he's back at all.
I mean, to me, it was done as well as it could have been. Let's see what happens in the future. Let's give him a chance, I suppose, for me.
I mean, to that, I'd say, did he seem a big deal when he left?
No, not really.
So, like, that,
but he's the monster, isn't he?
Tom.
The idea is he's the monster. He should have, like, really made an impact to something, but he didn't.
But then should he be on SmackDown? Because you have the Ultimate Monster in The Fiend.
Well,
The Fiend might go to Raw.
Yeah. I'm expecting to see the Fiend on Raw come Monday.
We'll see. Sasha versus Bayley could have been incredible, but over the last month, WWE have ruined them. I mean,
not them. The storyline probably they've taken some steam out of it. I'd say.
I think they have, and I think that this was a bad way to do it. Man of the Hour destroyed everyone, says Alan Gibbons. Welcome, Alan. Hope you're well. I'll go 7 out of 10, says Jake. Cool. Great Goats Gatsby, welcome. Kevin Owens joining the stable as Pig Boy.
I mean,
What the devil is that?
a bit harsh, mate. No, well, there's Huskers the Pig Boy, isn't there? Of course, but
Oh, okay.
you know, I don't like the idea of a stable quite yet, because it just seems like Wyatt Family 2.0. But I think if they did do Aleister Black and the Fiend and Alexa Bliss, I'd be okay with that. I don't know whether Kevin Owens is really a stable guy, to be honest. I don't think he's really a Wyatt Family follower. So I don't think that'll work. But I suppose, as fantasy booking goes, yeah, maybe, I don't think it's going to happen, but I suppose it's an interesting idea to explore.
Potentially.
Are we treading old ground with a new character instead of taking the opportunity with that new character and capitalizing on it?
Probably.
If we're going in the direction of a stable, I wonder.
Probably.
I'm not entirely sold on this Bliss thing.
Yeah, it's too early for it. It's too early for a Wyatt Family 2.0 for me.
But would you watch Bliss and the Fiend in like a weekly telesoap on the WWE network? Like Coronation Street, but just Bliss and the Fiend, like sitting on a beach and just like chilling out.
The idea would be hilarious. I'd give that a go just to watch it, just to see.
If they had nobody else to this, and they have Alexa Bliss being like quiet and I guess spooky or whatever she's trying to be on the main show, but if they do a Firefly Funhouse where her hair is like super blonde, she's super peppy, she's like over the top happy, and she's like a co-host with Bray, I could get into that.
Yeah,
interesting stuff there. Yeah,
I
it's just
really
not been fully realised yet. And actually, Alexa Bliss should have got involved in the Braun Strowman match at SummerSlam. I feel like we've talked so much, and that's partly because you're here, Scott, and it's so nice to get someone else's opinion. And I'm sure everyone in chat will thank Scott for showing up on the show tonight, because it's been wonderful to talk wrestling with you. Thank you so much.
It's been great, you guys.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I could talk wrestling with you for hours, mate.
Yeah, it's been real great.
Rock and roll. Anything else to add? Anyone?
No, I'm fine with that. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens on Raw, to a point at least. So we'll see.
It's a 3-hour show, baby. Cool. Sign us out, Dom.
Right. Okay. Cool. Scott, you might not know this, but what I tend to do is, like a claymore, I tend to count us down, and then I encourage everyone who is either watching now or watching back to shout or whisper, depending on their geographical location, the words "Hull yeah." So if you're in the UK or Europe, I would advise that you whisper, not to wake anybody up. But if you're in the US, feel free to shout. So on my 5 count, I would like you to shout "Hull yeah" with me. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hull yeah!
There we go. What a corny ending that is.
This is the hardcore legend, Mick Foley. Well, hello and welcome to Give Me a Hull Yeah. I hope everyone there, right there in Yorkshire, is having a nice day. Bang, bang. Have a nice day. Yeah.